Please be patient while we try to get all of this worked out. I'm about to do a scene transition and I'm hoping this works. Audio. Still on the trail here, and I want to invite you along on a great adventure, the Pacific Crest Trail. It's been my dream, my ambition, and my obsession for over 10 years now. And you can follow me as I complete it over these next 6 months at thetrek.co or studioprey.com. Alright guys, stay hydrated, stay hiking. We'll see you out there. And hello, welcome to the Studio Prey Snow on the Trail March 13th, 2020 live stream. Or, if you will, if you look around lately, the Plague Cast.
Why does that sound like a heavy metal band? Because it does.
Yes, indeed. All we need now is to have me write it out because my handwriting looks like unintelligible death metal hen scratch. You know. The audio is odd. Are we sounding okay to everybody out there?
Mute. Okay, it sounds like our audio is fine. There is the usual 15-20 seconds of lag, but I think we're here.
I lag, therefore I am.
I apologize in advance if at any point during the course of the live stream I cough up a lung, because I'm just getting over a cold. Definitely not the coronavirus, just a cold, but I've been coughing a lot.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. No fever.
No fever. But you see, I've got a fever, and the only cure are cheesy live stream jokes.
That was bad. That was really bad.
That was awful. That was, and it's prescription, not cure. Excuse you.
Oh my goodness! I have messed up. Oh, this is well. I'm crap without an editor, and that's why Maya and Kat are here.
Yeah, you're hopeless without us.
Awesome. We've got a lot of people showing up today.
One of them is my sibling. Hi, sibling.
Hello, sibling. Our IT department is here. Nega Mewtwo is here. Casey Orwig is here. Travis Moore is here. Let me tell you, it's exciting.
It's nice to see people live.
Yes, indeed.
And shameless plug, this is one of my favorite mugs. It's from actually a place in my hometown.
Nice.
Messery Ceramics. I have like 3 others like it. It's really nice.
I happen to have one here too, because some crazy Michigander, don't you know, sent one my way.
Love you, sister.
I love you, dear.
They are very pretty mugs.
So now that Nega Mewtwo has commented on our jugs, let's move right along there.
Yes. Love you. Sibling says they mentioned me on TV. I'm famous. We're not even famous.
You're Studio Prey famous, which means no one knows your name and you're still collecting a government check.
Yeah. I mean, we do have several published books, so that's something.
True.
Yes, but you can't eat Amazon receipts, unfortunately. God knows I've tried.
I mean, you could.
If you send them, if you get them in paper, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yep. Those electrons make my whiskers feel funny.
I mean, if, like, You could eat them if you just like put your tongue in like the USB socket for your computer. That would probably work, right?
I love my
No.
computer, but not like that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
uh,
I'm not even gonna go there. I was thinking about it, but it's like, oh well, why not? It's like gives a whole new meaning to the term hard drive, right? But anyway, hashtag demonetized.
Oh, awful.
uh,
That was bad. That was so
that
bad.
was terrible. And me too. Yeah, we do have the throw head back and cackle. I can English. Wow. Okay.
The
It's
scary
not like
thing
you're an
is,
editor or anything.
the scary thing is that she's better at it than I am.
Well, my excuse is that I'm much better in text.
Same. Yep. Yep. I make 0 sense in person, but once you get me on text, I'm like just waxing philosophical left and right.
But still, none of it makes sense.
Oh, of course.
You don't make any dollars either. We're all broke as hell.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
We do it for the art, team. We do it for the art.
Of course, it's how many people are here right now?
My tax
Um,
accountant is convinced that I'm a stand-up comedian more than a writer because every year I come in and I hand him my I-9 reports from Amazon, and he just laughs and laughs.
We got 8 people watching live right now, and we'll have more later. And
one of those is me, so I can keep track of the chat.
Yep, those are why we do this. So, all you people who are watching, we're here for you.
Yep.
Yes, indeed, and to
And,
keep my
really
parole
appreciate
officer
y'all.
happy. Yes, I am working. Yes, I
was about to say we're doing this for all of you guys and also to make fun of Snowy.
Yes, indeed. That's right, pick on the herbivore. It's not like this hasn't been going on since frickin' creation.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a long and glorious tradition.
People have often told me that it seems like hares have resting bitch face. Well, you'd have resting bitch face too if you were nature's version of fast food, alright?
Listen, we haven't eaten you yet, so you're doing pretty good.
Well, Travis, you are very special, and I'm very glad that you've taken the time to be here. But yeah, this is kind of a historic live stream. Next one that you guys do, you won't have me to kick around, or you probably won't.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We're gonna miss you.
The hair-shaped
Really gonna miss
pinata
you.
is running for the Mexican border and then heading north.
Oh, you're so much fun to pick on, but we'll make
you
do
are nice and sweet, so the pinata makes sense.
It's fine. Next month I'll just pick on Maya.
Oh yeah, my next joke was about me being the butt of every joke for the next 6 months, but
Oh yeah.
that's already the case more often than not. So
I mean, it's fine because Snowy doesn't actually have to be here for me to make fun of her.
True.
Yeah, just paint that target on the wall and throw the darts, man. Let me tell you, it's gonna be great.
My
ears are going to be burning, and not from the sun, as I haul my ass up some mountain out in the Mojave Desert, and it's like, damn it, cat. Yeah.
If you want to write some things when you can't be here for the live streams, I'll read them and then make fun of them. I'll read them and make the corrections live.
Oh, gee, thanks. I'm so happy.
Dead
Yeah.
air.
Dead air, yes, indeed.
I'm trying to
Tasty.
figure out Lane's comment. Ah, yes. Mero points out that you have a lot of ear to burn.
Not as much as you might think. I'm not a jackrabbit, all right?
But anyway, moving on, we've got some things to talk about.
Dang
This
it.
is true.
So PCT coming up. That's how many days do we have left?
7. I'm actually trying to post a link to my blog at the last minute, but it's not working. I keep grabbing everything else, and so the image keeps going wonky on the live stream because let me tell you, I didn't think about this before I started it. So just
Yep.
enjoy me being a professional, guys. You only got me for one more week.
Both of my siblings are here. Hi.
Wild. That's
They
pretty awesome.
finally made it to one of our live streams. They've only been trying to come to all of them.
Yep. Oh, I've finally got it. I've got it worked out. I have successfully done a botched scene transition in the middle of a live stream. It honestly looked like like our image software had Parkinson's for a moment there. Everything was shaking back and forth, left and right.
And of course, I'm sitting here looking at the 15-second delay or so.
Oh yeah, the delay always throws me off. I think we just lost Maya.
I think, yep, my internet is crap.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so your video is gone.
Could
of course
your
it is.
internet have COVID-19? Did it just quarantine itself?
I mean, there's 4 of us home. I'm home for spring break, what is actually turning into an extended spring break because all my classes are on online format until April 6th, of all things.
It's a really scary time. There's been
Mhm.
a new international travel ban that's announced, and
Mhm.
you know, I am, as you can see from the link, I am blogging for
Hey.
the Trek. A number of through hikers that were coming in internationally have had their visas and their clearance pulled to enter the country, so their through hike just got canceled.
Oh,
That sucks.
If you are not there, if you are not there on the day that your permit says that you begin, your permit becomes invalid.
Wow.
And so there are a number of through hikers that were slated for the Pacific Crest Trail that are currently up a creek. And
That sucks.
beyond that, a number of people that were planning on hiking this year are now canceling, or they're going to start later and flip flop. It's going to be a very odd year out there. And the thing is, you know, we've been telling jokes, we've been kind of making light of this thing. COVID is very serious, all right? Let's be honest. It is a respiratory illness. It has a 2% fatality rate. But the thing is most people that get it will recover. The most important thing we can do right now is not panic buy, practice good prevention techniques, wash your hands, cover your face when you cough, wash your hands. If you start having cold-like symptoms, isolate yourself, wash your hands.
Yep.
You know, and the other thing is you know, making sure that we aren't overreacting beyond the preventative measures that we know that work, because we can isolate this thing. Right now, people are clearing food off of shelves and they're talking about it's the apocalypse. A 2% fatality rate is terrible, but even if everybody in the world got it, a 2% loss. Now, this is going to sound cold as hell, right? But a 2% loss is not enough to kill all of civilization. It would be the greatest tragedy of our age, but life would go on, society would go on, and the entire world is not going to get COVID-19. We're going to have
right now, most of us, this is about limiting infection for the people who are actually at risk. Most of us, it's a flu. It's no worse than any other flu.
Mhm.
There's a very small portion of the population for which it's actually a danger, and if you're out there out and about, your responsibility is making sure that you're not giving it to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. My
And
grandfather has end-stage emphysema. If he catches it, it's going to kill him. My father has
mhm.
Parkinson's disease, which is one of the reasons why I made that tasteless joke, because it's on my mind. And if he gets it, it's very likely to do serious damage to him. Those are the people that are the
Mhm.
most at risk. And I'll be quite honest, I don't want anybody to suffer or die from COVID-19. But
Mm-hmm.
the level of
Mhm.
panic that currently exists does not justify it is not justified by the level of risk this
Mhm.
virus presents to most people.
Yeah.
Hey,
Like
hey,
I remember the what was it? The swine flu
Mm-hmm.
in the late noughties and Ebola in 2014 and 2016. I remember all those.
Zika
Co-
is going to make us all
Zika, yep,
sterile.
that
Yep.
one too. Like
We're all still here.
this, yeah, we're all still here. It's something to worry about, but it's not something to freak out
But
over.
again, most important thing we can be doing is for all of us to be washing our hands. So Snowy, your
Mhm.
moment has come.
Yes, indeed. My battle-scarred paws have been aching for this moment.
And yeah, Sibling would like to point out that lotions are important because dry skin and your skin cracking can also get you sick.
Mhm. It can. Also,
Yeah.
make sure to cover up any healing cuts. I got cut by my roommate's cat when I was like the last day before break, and I had it covered up until
Mhm.
now where it's like completely healed over and it's just like a tiny little nick.
And
But
just to be
Practice.
clear, we are not saying that COVID is not serious. What we are saying is this is no time to panic. This
Yep.
is no time to clear the
Mhm.
shelves of toilet paper. This is no time to run for the hills unless you're me and you've got a permit that says you can. Uh,
Well, actually,
And
you're going to be running for like flatland desert at first, and then moving gradually into the hills over time.
yes,
this is true.
exactly. I only have a 1,300-foot elevation gain my first week, so that'll be nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Isn't that like
Easy mode.
a typical day for you in Washington?
Actually, no. I generally on my road hikes out like to
You're
Longview.
glitching out.
Am I glitching out bad?
You were for a second. I think you're back now.
Yep, when I'm
Oh,
out in Washington on my daily road hikes, like into Longview and back, I'm only gaining like 200 feet. Now, when I did Mount Hamilton, I gained like 2,500, 3,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And most of that was in the first 3 miles. So let me tell you, that was a cottontail kicker. Let me tell you, that was kicking my butt. And but the thing is, and what I'm really proud of, I was scared of my Mount Hamilton hike after I was doing PCT Section H and I hit snow way early, and that's a real bad
Mm-hmm.
sign when you've got bad intelligence. When you're expecting to hit snow on day 3 and you hit it day 1 and you're post-holing up to your knees, that's probably a good indication that your intelligence is bad and you should rethink where you're hiking, because I was up I
Mm-hmm.
climbed
mhm.
I climbed from sea level to 3,000 feet and I hit solid snow up on
Mm-hmm.
Table Mountain. And so I reluctantly overnighted, came back down, and then went out and hiked Mount Hamilton. Now, the thing about Mount Hamilton, it's one of the most popular hikes in the area, but it's in Beacon Rock State Park. It was the first major hike that I did in the Pacific Northwest, way back in 2018. And when I did it, I wasn't in the level of shape that I was in now or anything, but I still did it. I did a 7 mile version of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mhm.
not able to walk right for 2 weeks afterwards because
Wow.
I was so sore. The guys almost took me to the doctor because I could not stand without almost falling over. It beat me down so hard. I hurt
Wow.
terribly. And so I'm like, I'm going to put 30 pounds on my back this time, quite literally, and I'm going to do it again. And in fact, I'm going to do the longer version this time. I'm going to do the 13-mile version. And so I did it, and I did just fine. And I was so excited
Mhm.
when I was able to actually push through and get that done because it shows how far I've actually improved.
Progress.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a perfect measure of how much you've improved over time. That's cool.
Because I'm sitting there in
Yeah.
the parking lot and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, son of a gun, here we go. You know, like, yeah, but I was really proud of that, and it made me feel pretty ready for the trail because I hiked up, like I said, to Table Mountain on Section H. Well, there's this informational kiosk before you really start to go up, right? And through hikers
Mhm.
have left notes on that board going back years. Some have actually graffitied in, which is totally not cool, but there's like a chalkboard and stuff like that that people have left messages, and some of them are still there from last year and from 2018. And
Hmm.
one of them, it was like, it's going to be hell going up from here for about 2 miles. And I'm like, it's been hell for the last 3. I killed myself getting up here. And I'm like, so no big deal, right? It's like, whatever, hell is going to be hell. Famous last frickin' words. I mean, we're talking, switchback city. And I was less worried about that than I was Hamilton. And the thing is there are parts on Hamilton where you come up to a place where it used to be stairs, but it's been washed out, and now the step is at chest level. And I've got 30 pounds on my back, and so I had to
Wow.
set my hands
Oh
down,
boy.
hike a leg up, and then pull myself up by 3. And I'm clawing my way up this beast. But I did it!
That's intense.
Yep.
You are really so. I know I say this pretty much every single day, but you're freaking incredible.
Travis, what you missed is Snowy being a bunny badass.
Yeah,
Well, they say
pretty
that,
much.
but what it really is, I'm just talking about my hiking antics. I mean, but because, yes, next week,
Funny badass.
at this time, I will be heading north on the Pacific Crest Trail. At this very moment, I will be about at least 4 hours into my day, should all go well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
my first day, I've got tentative plans to hike 16 miles. I'm going to have to do at least 16 miles to get to a decent campsite. I'm either stopping at 11 miles, which is just not going to cut it, or I'm going to be stopping 16 miles in. And that will give me a chance to hit the Hauser Creek water source, and then I'll keep on going north. If those 10 sites are taken, I might be pushing 17 or 18 miles, which is going to be fun.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
it's nothing you can't manage.
I think I'll be able to handle it. I've been doing 15-mile-a-day road hikes for the last month or so, trying to get ready for that rigor. And
Yeah.
honestly, an extra 3 miles is just about an hour to an hour and a half of hiking.
Yeah, it's not that much for you,
Mhm.
relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Lots
And
of pictures of the desert.
And there will be.
Sounds like Hares enjoy masochism. Yeah, that definitely tracks.
I am a writer. I mean, Kat's my editor. That should tell you everything you
Mhm.
need to know.
Masochism and sadism, I think they
Yeah,
go hand in hand with
you're
writing.
also definitely a sadist, which is well known to anybody who's read any of your books.
Hmm. I mean, we all saw Dawnbreak, didn't we?
Hello, kiddos. Um,
There's a reason I got you a mug that says "Tears of My Readers."
yes, indeed. And we all saw just
Mhm.
how much of a hard beast I was when I'm reading Dawnbreak and crying my eyes out at that one part that everybody says I'm a heartless bitch over. I
Mhm.
mean, I try to write about like real stuff, like real
Mhm.
talk. Let's be honest. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not there to write happy endings that make everybody feel wonderful. I really want to make people think. I want to have a conversation. I want to say something that's meaningful, and sometimes that means just letting the narrative go where it needs to go, and sometimes that means tragedy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
My writing is not always a happy ending, but it is always honest. That is my
Well,
goal.
And we love you. And we love you for that. Because.
the real world doesn't really have happy endings
Hmm.
because
Mhm.
the real world doesn't
Mhm.
have endings.
Yeah,
So,
and
I mean, it has
neither.
personal endings, but
And honestly,
aside from that.
look at the farthest star universe. I mean, Dawnbreak is not. Dawnbreak doesn't end. Dawnbreak ends with a beginning.
mhm.
We
Mhm.
see people change, see people evolve, we see people live throughout the narrative, through Dawnbreak, through Exile's Return, through Rise of the Forgotten. We see changes, large and small, happen to our characters. They develop, they grow, because they're people. And to me, that's more authentic than they all got to Sintiok and established a colony and lived happily ever after, and nothing ever went bad ever again.
That's not how life is. So,
Really isn't.
you're not giving people something real if that's how your stories are.
Mhm. That's what fan fiction is for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, Nagamuto has promised us fanfic that I want to read.
I
Oh,
am
yeah.
so excited
Mhm.
about their fanfic. I'm so excited that I was actually able to inspire someone to write.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
cool.
One of
Well,
the
and
Absolutely.
here's hoping that it moves from fanfic to writing their own stories because I would enjoy
Mhm.
reading those.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Uh, well, and so anyway, let's get back to the trail real quick. So the
Yep.
Trek.co author Becca
Mhm.
Mickley, you guys will be seeing regular posts coming up.
Regular-ish.
Yeah, regular-ish posts coming up about where I am and what I'm
Mhm.
doing. If you want to support the journey, please consider going to our Patreon. A coin for your writer. Uh, but uh, beyond that, yeah, it's going to be a heck of an adventure. RebeccaMickley.com will have Instagram cross posts. I also
Mhm.
have an Instagram. I have a Twitter. I am doing all of the social media lately, which trust me is very odd for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I am not so savvy on the social media.
I'm
I
impressed
mean,
to see that you found a platform that works for you with Instagram and Twitter, though.
Yeah,
mhm.
definitely. Basically, it's because I can be brief and I can be
Mhm.
just my awkward, crazy self, and it seems to be working for me. Uh, Facebook is a toxic cesspool a lot of the time, and I'm not
Yeah,
afraid
I
to
just
say
Mhm.
it.
I
Yeah.
there's a couple of people that I use Facebook to keep track of because they don't have anything else,
Hmm.
but I really
Mhm.
don't like Facebook.
Yeah, I don't like
The
Facebook much
only
either.
only reason I have Facebook is because I have some classes,
Hmm.
specifically uh my ensemble groups. Most of them use Facebook for, scheduling and, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, aside from that, that's
Yeah.
the reason you gave me the Tumblr.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Hmm.
Tumblr as a platform works for me. There's some issues with the people who use Tumblr sometimes, but
Hmm.
But what's it called? But the thing is that I've got some core groups that I'm a part of on Facebook, and I don't know where I'd be without them. Uh,
yeah.
Travis is one of the people that I often talk to on Facebook, and they have just been an immense and amazing support. Like I cannot say that enough. Facebook itself can be a
Mhm.
very toxic place, but some of the people that I know on there and keep in touch on there are
Mhm.
absolutely golden.
Mhm.
Absolutely golden.
Mhm.
Travis, Billy Joe, Ali Robinson, a lot of the people that you will actually see pop up in the streams. There's absolutely nothing wrong with feeling old. There is something
Yeah.
wrong. There is something wrong, however, I think, with letting the feeling of being old keep you from going for your dreams.
Mhm.
A lot of
Mhm.
people think that, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60, I can't, I won't. I think the oldest marathoner was in their 90s.
Yes.
Mhm.
What's it called? There have been people as old as 70 and 80 that have hiked the Pacific Crest Trail successfully.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm 39. I'm in better shape than I've ever been at any other time in my life, and there are days where my knees hurt and my ankles hurt, but who gives a damn, right? I'm
Mhm.
out there
Do it
to
anyway.
live. And
Embrace the suck.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
Mhm.
felt old since I was 15. So
well,
Mhm.
you've had one heck of a life and you've overcome a lot,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I
You're
still
you're
get out there and hike even though my joints don't work correctly. So
Mhm.
heck,
I mean, 9 times out of 10, when I'm like, ah man, I feel like crap, I'm just like, wait a second. Cat does so
Aw.
much. I don't feel so much like crap anymore.
You're sweet.
Yeah.
I'm just old before my time. I'm 30 years old and I got the joints of a 60-year-old.
well, that's the thing. It's like you and I are going to go probably hiking in Greece or Italy
Yep.
coming up in
In
October.
October.
And that's going to be exciting. We need
Mhm.
to get together after stream and nail down our dates because we have to buy before I go out on the trail, at least on my end.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
that's other business for another time. We don't need to broadcast that live. But yes, we will be making travel plans after the stream. Notify the media.
I mean, there's
Meanwhile, you're
there's
leaving
no
me
reason not
behind.
to broadcast it live. We're going overseas. Gonna 2 or 3 weeks ish.
Yep. I'm
A
finally
week in
going to get.
Paris.
Yes, I'm finally going to get to
Mhm.
see Europe. I cannot wait for
Nope.
that.
We've got family in Paris. We're going to visit and spend a week there, and then meet up with other family and do a week or two in Greece and go backpacking.
And then we're going to see Stockholm briefly and Sweden, not the syndrome, and then we're going to head home.
Yep. Fly out of Stockholm sounds good to me.
Yes, indeed. And see if I can find a vegan Swedish meatball.
Good luck.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they
yeah,
probably exist.
I think
Maybe.
doing international flying together is going to be much less stressful than either one of us trying to do it alone.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, but it's going to be a great adventure after I have this great adventure on the PCT.
I can bite the TSA for you.
Heck, I've got pre-check now, so all they go is turn your head and cough, go through. I mean that's about it. And
Yeah.
Swedish wheat ball.
Swedish meatball.
that
I
one
believe
was
that's
special.
I believe that's called falafel.
Oh, falafel. Actually, falafel's mainly bean, garbanzo bean, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So
It's mostly chickpea. It's good. But I like falafel.
Yeah.
If we can find a Swedish wheat ball, I will try them with you. The novelty of it.
yeah. It sounds so strange. It's like, do you want to try my Swedish wheat balls? And it's like, are you propositioning me? Hashtag demonetized.
I am very glad to have my siblings here because they are very funny in the chat, and Yes, for those of you who will be watching at home later, you should probably read the transcripts because they're funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
Are
think
your
this
wheat
is
balls
the-
gluten free?
There's
I think
there's
this
that
is
cough that I was
the
talking about.
Ripcat 2K20.
Anyway, we promised that we would talk about Otherkin today.
Oh, gee, look at
Yeah.
the time. It's time for me to be getting onto that trail there, and
No.
Nope. You're stuck with us, sis. Come on.
So, for those of you in the audience who are not familiar, being Otherkin is the thing that all of us are. That means on some level, spiritually, psychologically, whatever, considering oneself to be something other than human. For all three of us, it involves past life reincarnation, very tied in with our spirituality. That's not necessarily true for everybody because it's a completely involuntary thing, and we don't really know for sure why it happens, and everybody's got their own beliefs. So the why is something that we can't give more than theories on because nobody knows for sure, but that's where we are. Hi, I'm a dragon trapped in a human suit. Have been since the day I was born.
Yep, same here.
field mouse. No, I mean mountain hare.
No.
I mean, tasty nonetheless, but you know.
Either way.
Yeah, this is where all the eating the bunny jokes come from, if anybody was wondering.
Yeah. That's the origin of the 4 jokes.
I identify, yes, as a mountain hare, Lepus timidus, trapped in the human suit.
I'm trying to make Maya joke.
I was about to say,
on your wheat balls?
Which is appropriate.
What? But
I'd make a joke about tell my boyfriend that, but
but you're a lesbian.
I am.
Yes, lesbian. But oh my god.
Yeah.
So the Otherkin thing as a spirituality. Let's just move right along here. You crazy lesbian.
Moving on from the inappropriate jokes.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, I am wearing a flannel right now, so.
Yes, indeed.
All the stereotypes.
I mean, I have my leather jacket, you know, just over there, but.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Do you drive a Subaru?
I do not. I would like a Subaru, though. Denim. Actually, you might be able to see my denim jacket hanging on my door over there.
Yeah. But anyway, Otherkin is what we would call an alternative or minority spirituality. In that respect, many people find it strange and unusual, to which I reply, I myself am strange and unusual. However, another interesting thing to consider is that virtually every type of spirituality that exists, be it mainstream or an alternative spirituality, requires some kind of belief in something fantastical, mythic, supernatural, etc. When Christianity began, one of the things that the Romans were saying about them were these people are crazy, they're cannibals. They eat flesh, they drink blood. And what they were talking about was the Eucharist, the communion ritual. And this is not BS. This is honest to goodness fear-mongering propaganda that the Roman authorities put out to make persecution easier, but it was also how they were interpreting things because of things that Jesus said. Now, for us now, you know, the idea of this is my body, this is my blood. Everyone in major like Western civilizations and such has grown up with these concepts, with seeing this phraseology and all of that because we live in a Judeo-Christian culture. We're used to it. But
So
for
it's normal, but if you actually break down the beliefs into what they really are, the most extreme way that you can describe Catholicism is zombie cannibalism. So
in an offensive way, yes. But the thing
Yeah.
is like, but for the Catholic teaching, and I believe the Orthodox as well, it is a core belief that to be considered like Catholic in a traditional sense, and this is just me pulling out the religious studies degree that's stuck on my wall, is a belief in transubstantiation, which is when the priest speaks the words over the what's called sacred host, which is the Eucharistic cracker, the wafer, and the wine, that there is an actual miracle occurring, and that you are actually consuming the flesh of God in the form of Jesus Christ. Quite literally, not a symbol, not spiritually. You are literally snacking on God, and that is a very interesting belief, and it caused a lot of problems with people. They're like, "You want me to eat what?"
I mean,
Mhm.
it's no stranger than any other religion, and that kind of puts things into perspective. That's an idea that's normalized in our culture. So why is it any stranger to reincarnation is a really common belief. The belief that things other than humans also reincarnate is not that extreme.
Yeah, in
Uh,
fact, it goes
It's
back
one
to
of the
some.
main. It's one of the main parts of the belief system in what is it?
Buddhism,
Uh,
Hinduism,
Buddhism, Hinduism. Yeah, it's
both of
not that
Hinduism,
strange.
Hinduism in particular, uh, does explicitly reference a progression of animals reincarnating in different forms, eventually being human. Sometimes,
Mhm.
some sects, and it was explicitly mentioned by the bard Taliesin. It's a Celtic pagan thing.
Mhm.
Taliesin stated that he reincarnated as animals in past lives.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
so the idea that a soul could identify more with one of those other lives than with this one is actually fairly normal in the grand scheme of beliefs in the world. It's
Mhm.
just
It's rather odd in Western society.
right.
One of
Mhm.
the oldest belief structures that exists, in fact, what many theologians and archaeologists consider to be the OG religious structure, is animism. The idea that everything necessarily has a
Mhm.
spirit, the idea that everything necessarily has a soul. And that doesn't just include animals, that includes rocks and dirts and planets and trees and things and
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
politicians. So, uh,
Thank you for that. That was
Uh,
perfect.
and
that was a good
which
one. That was really good.
and I am largely an animist, except when it comes to politicians, and so that definitely informs my belief. But yes, each of us
Yeah.
have had a
Mhm.
religious experience because we're all spiritual based other kin at some point of
Mhm.
our life that was
Mhm.
incredibly powerful, that is fundamentally undeniable, and has shaped our reality.
Yep. I
Yeah.
had, from a very young age, from my earliest memories, a general sensation of not being like all these people around me, and not identifying with my body. Like, why am I in this thing?
Mhm.
And it took a while for that to evolve into having a sense of what I was other than this stuff. Uh, but I got there, and things gradually clicked into place. And
Mhm.
Well, I spent my life identifying as something other, but not knowing exactly what that other was. And
Mhm.
that doesn't just
Mhm.
go towards being transgender, that also goes towards being not feeling comfortable in the human skin that I am
Mhm.
inhabiting. And it's amazing to me looking back how formative that was for me, because it inspired me to question,
Hmm.
it inspired me to read, it inspired me to seek things out, and inspired me not to just accept by rote what I was given. And that hugely shaped my life. It helped create my patterns of behaviors and thought that led me to becoming an
Mhm.
author, that led me to religious studies in college, to all of that.
Hmm.
And so like it's one of the most shaping, both positively and negatively, factors of my life. And when I finally went through what was called like an awakening moment, like around 20 or 21, which is when it all kind of clicks into place and you get a revelation of identity. It's something that many other
Mhm.
can go through.
Hmm.
Uh, Things started to click into place, but even then, it was a journey. It was another like 7 to 10 years of exploring this really intense religious experience that I had in my dorm. That I kind of had to evolve into it. I kind of had to grow into it. This wasn't
Yeah.
just, an
Hmm.
overnight kind of thing. And
It when I was 13 or 14 was when it first started for me, and I didn't have everything figured out until I was in my early 20s.
MB,
I mean,
uh,
I tend. Oh,
just 1 second. MB,
yeah.
I actually know an angel, and I think you would. They might love to meet you sometime. So let's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
an angel that I'm hoping to see soon. But
yeah.
Hey,
And
Michelle Murdoch is here. She is a creator. She's an artist and an author.
mm,
She is also one of my beta readers. Absolutely amazing soul. Super stoked that she's here and that you got into the stream today. It's nice to see you.
I'm Michelle. But
yeah.
yeah, it took all of us years to
Mhm.
figure all this stuff out, and now
I
I
mean,
hang out all day with bunnies and dragons and stuff.
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, for me, I somehow fall into the third camp of like more along your lines, Kat, where it's like I feel different. I feel other, and again, not just because I'm trans, but like, and then I like majorly suppressed it. I think like I started noticing things in like middle school, um, and then just again suppressed it. Didn't think about it until late high school, and I'm just I'd finally started looking into spirituality, what I wanted to do. I'd left the church, and I had this realization, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then it was a course of like a month, 2 months, maybe three, where I'm like, so that's what's going on. All right, that's my life right now.
Hmm.
And it just stuck.
It
So
it
like,
helped for me that I was raised with the Greek gods. I was raised only partially Christian. Uh,
mhm.
my grandmother actually identified with the term Christian witch, but even that was only half true, because she prayed to lots of gods and taught me the same.
Mhm.
I
So
So
I
actually.
was,
Go ahead, Maya. I'm sorry.
yeah. I was raised full Christian, kind of leaning towards the uh non-practicing side of things, and then like I said, left the church. And it's really thanks to my first girlfriend that I'm still with. Um, when she was like, "Hey, so witchcraft is a thing, paganism is a thing," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And that's really like the moment that like set all that in motion
Mhm.
for me.
You mentioned first girlfriend, but what about second girlfriend? I don't know if they know about second girlfriends knowing. Oh, but Lord of the Rings reference. But
Uh,
for me, I
I
grew
mean, if
up.
you're asking about second girlfriend, I'm still with them.
Yes, yes, I know.
Polyamory.
Yay,
Yeah,
polyamory.
that's true too. A sibling would like to point out that our father exposed us to Native American religion a lot. We had really close ties with the Mattapony tribe. I used to go to events that were tribe members only on the reservation when I was a kid all the time.
Cool.
So had a broad exposure to different beliefs and spiritualities. So it was easier for me to figure things out than it was for a lot of people.
That's pretty awesome.
I grew up in West Texas, in a very monochromatic black and white culture in more ways than one. My family,
Mostly white.
where I'm from, oh, I could tell you stories. It's kind of scary how much the 1950s are still alive in parts of
Ugh.
West Texas. And I'll just
I'm
kind
so
of,
sorry.
I'll leave that there. My mom
One
and
of many
dad.
reasons I'm glad I'm Midwestern.
My mom and dad are largely the non-practicing, vaguely kind of American-style Christian, where it's like, oh, it's Easter, I guess we should go to church, kind of thing. But there wasn't
Mhm.
really much impetus, more impetus than that growing up. Now, I would go to church just about every time the doors were open because once again, I was looking, I was seeking, I wanted answers terribly, terribly bad. And so as my parents both went through phases where they were more engaged and less engaged with the church, I became progressively more engaged because it was the one set of answers that was
Mhm.
allowed and
Mhm.
approved of and encouraged. Everything else was bad or evil
Yeah.
or vilified or malevolent or straight up demonic. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
for about 7 years, I ended up like Bible track passing out fundamentalist evangelical. I went
Yeah.
to school to be a evangelical Methodist pastor. Uh, I just all of that, but the center could not hold because even because I was pushing and I was holding on so hard to those things because I thought it was the only answer I was allowed to have, but it wasn't the right answer. And I knew that, and so it was this facade that kept cracking and cracking and cracking until I had a literal breakdown. I went through my second
Mhm.
suicide attempt. Getting real
Mhm.
here. Cut my wrists, and in the serious way. And from there, that's when it kind of broke me,
Mhm.
and I ended
Mhm.
up kind of in a state where I was like, okay, this, what everybody's telling me might be incorrect, and I ended up in a broken place where I was open enough to start to learn and discover, and then afterwards, that's what led to my awakening. But
Mhm.
I had to,
Mhm.
I had to break, I had to shatter, uh, and be willing to at least consider leaving those concepts behind before I
Mhm.
could really move on and get the answers that were right for me. And
Yeah, mine was
Mhm.
kind of intense too, actually, because I started really deeply pursuing spirituality when my grandfather passed away, and he had a protracted illness, had a stroke for 6 years, and that was really rough. And then he finally passed away, and I spent that summer with my grandmother, helping her through it. Spent a lot of time with her, and she initiated the depth of my spirituality. She taught me the stuff that her grandmother had taught her. So Hellenic family witchcraft and a lot of spirituality. Did the combination of praying to the Greek gods and things like the first protection spell that I learned was uh, one of them, one of the Psalms, whichever one. Right now, numbers, math,
yeah,
not in my brain right now. Anyway, a lot of Bible
Mhm.
verses as spells.
yeah.
Uh,
I actually have a dear friend. They actually carved my necklace for the trail and made my pocket altar. His name is Matthew Pettery. He grew up in either Tennessee or Kentucky, but he was raised in the Norse faith by his grandfather, who learned
Mhm.
it from his father. And his father, they were part of the remnant that survived.
Mhm.
And
There
going
were
back,
some.
and so
Mhm.
he actually learned an unbroken tradition of heathenry and came up in it. And what's it called, Michelle? I'm not the same person that I was 20 years ago, and that's kind of true. I think of everybody. We're always in a constant state of evolution,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
that was a very temporary version of myself that needed to happen so that I could ultimately end up where I needed to be.
Mhm. We are
Yeah.
all what's the word I'm looking for? We're all
Works in
products
progress.
of our that too. But I was gonna say we're all products of our past selves.
Mhm.
And that includes, past
But
lives if that's your
yeah, my
if that's your
sibling
thing.
wishes that our grandmother could have taught them the family hitman business. Unfortunately, my grandmother was not directly involved with that, but yeah, my great great uncle, my grandmother's uncle, may or may not have been commonly referred to as Jimmy the Greek, and
Mm.
It's funny because I have an uncle
was
that was referred to as Joey the Banana King, and it wasn't because he liked bananas. Let's put it that way. He wore yellow suits and he facilitated shipments from Colombia, as I understand it.
yeah. So there may have been members of my family who may or may not have been involved with organizations that may or may not have been the mafia.
Well, Jimmy the Greek, if I'm not missing my guess, there was a Jimmy the Greek that was particularly nefarious and had a bit of notoriety. So
It was actually a different Jimmy the Greek, but yes. But my grandmother's Uncle Jimmy, who my uncle got to meet once he showed up on a motorcycle with a leather jacket and everything, and may have been known in certain circles.
Yeah. The
See,
banana
compared
business
to
is actually a lot darker than the mafia. If you look at the history, look at the Dole Fruit Wars, look at the banana republics of the turn of the century, where they were actively sending in the U.S. military to topple regimes and murder leaders in Central America so that Dole and what became Chiquita Fruit Company could control the flow of tropical fruit because it was such a moneymaker. The banana industry in particular has some of the darkest history in the last 100 years tied to it in the terms of bloodletting, land
Yeah.
snatching, and all that other stuff. It's actually quite impressive.
you learn something new every day.
Yup.
All right.
Yeah.
To avoid the dead air, and you both have a lot more interesting family histories than I do. All I know is my ancestors came from Scotland, and yeah, but
There's
You're from
usually some pretty
Michigan, darling. That's interesting enough. Trust me.
there's usually some pretty good records in Scotland, and you really should look into it because you might find some cool things.
that's what my father's been doing. But yeah, by all rights,
My
I probably should have gone the Saxon route, but here I am, a Norse heathen.
my
I forgive you.
my grandfather went to Scotland and met somebody and mentioned his last name and what family history he knew, and the guy was like, "Yeah, here's your family tartan. We know all about you."
Oh,
Which makes sense because my grandfather was a Plantagenet.
Wow. War of
Margaret
the
Pole.
Roses stuff, man.
Yes, War of the Roses. I'm a direct descendant of the son of Margaret Pole, who didn't get executed by Henry VIII.
all
Uh,
right.
because they had a claim to the throne that was more legitimate than his.
Huh.
I'm directly related to King Richard III.
The other thing, my mom's family history is largely Italian as well, hence
Mhm.
Joey the Banana King. And what's it called? My mother's family's name is actually Toto, and it goes back to Italian peasantry, and that's all we know.
Neat.
We have a Micavelli Toto, and he came through Staten Island, I think it was, in 1905, and
Neat.
that's the one record that we have.
Yeah, I've got the Plantagenets on my maternal grandfather's side, and of course my grandmother was Greek. Her mother was supposed. The family lore is that she was born on the boat coming from a small town near Corinth in Greece to New Jersey. Don't know if she was actually born in the boat or not, but her birth certificate is American. There is no Greek one as far as I'm aware. She was born Konstantina Katsanopoulos,
Which
and
is
they changed it.
absolutely rad because that's basically Constantine.
Yeah, but they changed it from Katsanopoulos to Katsis in immigration. So my grandmother, or rather, she married into the name Nelson, and the cool family name went away. But Nelson's cool too. But
Is that one of the reasons why you chose Catherine as a name?
Yes, the spelling that I picked is a Greek spelling, and it's also the same spelling as Katharine Hepburn, who is always one of my favorite actresses. And my grandmother, ironically, was really fascinated with the Tudor period in Elizabethan England, and Catherine of Aragon, who was Henry VIII's first wife, was also basically the first feminist of her century in Western Europe.
One more question, okay? Oh, sorry. I thought we're talking all over each other today. I was going to ask you one more question.
Yeah. Fire.
Is that where? Is that why? Is that why?
Oh no.
Now I'm flustered. Is there a reason why you went? Is that one of? Why not Katerina then? Isn't that more of a Greek version of Catherine? I mean that's not me questioning. I'm just curious.
Catherine just kind of felt right.
Feels good. Do it.
Yeah.
And it just, that was what stuck in my brain, and I like it. So either way, I'm Cat. But it worked for me. It made me happy. And of course, then on the other side of my family, I don't know as much, but I do know that I used to go to the Forbes family reunions all the time. As in those Forbeses, yeah.
Oh, fun.
The Forbes candy company that got the magazine named after them and everything was started by two cousins, both with the name of Forbes, and they had a falling out, and one of them sold his shares in the company and left, and I'm a direct descendant of that cousin.
That's kind of like my grandfather was stationed in Japan, in Okinawa, in the 50s during the Korean War. My father was actually born on an American air base in Japan. And
that's neat.
He ended up with some money to invest, and he was actually offered Sony stock at 10 cents a share. He could have ended up with a minority interest in the company. And he turned it down because Japanese products were crap. Because at the time they were rebuilding their industry from the Allies laying waste to the island, and no one believed that they could produce something viable, and so he said no to a minority interest, voting interest in Sony. And oh my goodness,
imagine if he'd said yes.
Right.
Wow.
But, yeah, so I'm almost related to the Forbes multimillionaires. there's like if 830 people or something all died at the same time, my uncle would be the king of England. Yeah, well,
COVID-19?
he'd be the king of the ashes, but there's still
True.
that. And so I have to share, my grandfather was a Navy Mustang. He was an officer in the Navy, which means my grandmother was an officer's wife, which comes with a surprising amount of social responsibility because it's all politics and popularity contests and stuff. So she had to hang out with these other Navy wives she didn't particularly like sometimes. And yeah, several of them, but one in particular was apparently really proud of her lineage. They were always talking about, I'm related to this person who was on the Mayflower or whatever that probably wasn't even true. To which my grandmother's response eventually was, that's nice, dear. I'm descended of the gods. And it got a laugh and she shut up.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
So let's turn it over to our live studio audience here for a minute. Do you guys have any questions about Otherkin? Any questions that you want to ask of us?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Please
Yeah.
do, so we have more to talk about.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
please. We kind of got off on the tangent right there, but it's all interesting stuff.
Absolutely. I'm going to roll off camera for just a second. I'm going to grab a sparkling water from the Studio Prey official refrigerator.
Yeah, my sibling makes a good point. Who wants to be descended from people on the Mayflower? And the answer to that is not me.
I wouldn't want to either.
I think we still have like a fabric sample of the family tartan around somewhere.
It's really fascinating to me. I was recently watching a documentary about the Mayflower landings, and it's like everybody talks about, the people of the Mayflower fled religious persecution in England, which is true, and they were seeking religious freedom in the New World, which is true. But the thing is, when we're talking about religious freedom, they meant religious freedom for them. They had the right way. They had the one true path to God, and they wanted to establish their city on the hill to show the heathen nations of the world that they were right and everyone else was wrong and God was on their side. And that's the rest of the story. They were not prepared to extend the same religious courtesy to the Native Americans. They were not ready to extend that to their spirituality or respect for their territory. They were also not ready to respect it to other members of their community when they started to diverge in spirituality and theological ethos, which is why the colonies fractured. Because you put 80 humans in a room and you show them God or gods, and they will each come out with a different theory of what happened because that's just people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Michelle has a good question.
Ooh, yeah, that is definitely.
How do you deal with any past life trauma that you might discover while exploring otherkin type things?
Oh wow.
Yeah. I can say what I've done. Find your people, find the people who care about you, and talk to them, because I can remember some pretty awful things I did in a past life. The one that I know of, and the only one I'm sure, pretty sure it's the only one that I had. Yeah, find your people, talk to them. They'll care about you. And just know, at least for me, like, I just assumed I was put in this life to make amends, and I'm gonna try and do that. Live better.
I have past life memories of dying, of being ripped apart. being predated and dragged
Same
into
here.
a cave and killed.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It
fairly intense.
yeah, it was really
Yeah.
intense, and when that really hit, it was deeply traumatic, as in, dark and disturbing and depressed for days and all of that. And I got through it with being honest that it was something that I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
That by writing about it, by talking about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to veer in an odd direction here for a minute, so please bear with me. It's not like you guys haven't seen this before. But in Aikido, there's a concept of that fighting is like fire, and you do not meet fire with fire because then you both burn. You meet fire with water, and you extinguish it. And so the thing is when you
Mm-hmm.
encounter those, and I've always found that to be a fascinating concept because in my experience it applies a lot more to things than just fighting and combat and conflict. When you encounter something negative, the immediate and visceral reaction is to push back from it. But what I have found works a lot
Mm-hmm.
better for me is accepting that it is there, accepting that it is a thing, and then working with it where it's at, as hard as that is to do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And people are like, well, how do you even know that that's real? Well, how do we know that anything is real? But from the
Mm-hmm.
perspective of my
Yeah.
brain and or my spirit, this is something that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I must
Yeah.
now reframe and rephase and deal with it as if it was something that happened to me. And so that's what I'm going to do.
And
The reality is that none of us have ever experienced reality. What you
Mhm.
have experienced in your life is sensory input into your brain, and you don't know where it came from. All you have is your senses.
yeah.
You cannot you cannot prove that you exist. You cannot prove that anything is real. You can't prove that the thing that's producing the images that you see is actually a pair of eyes. Because you have only the sensory data that your brain is interpreting with which to provide that proof. It can't provide proof of itself. So you could be a brain in a jar. You don't know, and you have absolutely no way to find out. All you have is, do you choose to trust your sensory input or do you not? Our brains are not even designed to show us reality. Our senses are there to provide input designed to keep us alive.
To put it
So they
another
don't.
way, I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Right.
Yeah. Very
they
very
do not,
Matrix.
They do not show us reality. For instance, human brains are very much keyed to recognize faces, to see everything as a face. So sometimes your brain will take some information and say, that looks kind of like a face. So I'm going to change what's going into the brain to make it look more like a face, so it will be recognized as a face, just in case it's a predator, so we'll avoid it.
Yeah.
One of
And
go ahead, Maya. I'm sorry.
yeah. And something else that I thought of when you were talking, Snowy, is like, if for anybody who knows me for any decent amount of time, it will know I'm stupidly arachnophobic.
Mm-hmm.
That, and so much so that I have to, that I'm a massive nerd. I have over 1,200 hours into Skyrim. I have to download a mod every time I play it that changes the spiders in Skyrim to look like just T-posing bears. It's funny, yes, but I get freaking terrified.
Yeah.
And that is because I have a distinct memory, and I've had nightmares about it multiple times of my death at the hands of, giant fantasy-sized spiders. So, think Skyrim for the win. Hell yeah.
Not so much hands as
Yeah. So things like that, Yeah, that did not go where I thought it would. Yeah, like me too. So things like that, learn to, if you can, you don't have to say, oh, I think this is because of past life spirituality thing. If you have a therapist, go to them and say, hey, look, I'm incredibly, X-phobic, arachnophobic, height phobic, etc. They can probably help you with that. You don't have to
Yep.
say exactly why, and the therapist probably shouldn't ask exactly why.
And although really, if you want to, there's nothing wrong with talking with a therapist about the whole otherkin thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the psychiatric community these days is on board with the whole thing. Like I have heard from many people who have talked with therapists about it and had positive results. I've talked with some therapists about it myself. In particular, there's a friend of mine from back in Florida who is a licensed mental health counselor and knows that I am otherkin, and we make inside jokes about it on a fairly regular basis. The Diagnostic and Statistics Manual, which is the book from which therapists are supposed to draw their diagnoses and general understanding of mental health, has removed identity disorders as a category. There's no such thing. And anything that is not negatively impacting your life is a healthy way to be.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it all goes towards, what kind of an effect is this having on you? For me, having a core sense of identity that I can relate to, that I can understand, and that I feel like is me is
Mm-hmm.
infinitely more valuable and more beneficial, even though I still experience and struggle with feelings of dysphoria and disconnection and such like
Mm-hmm.
that. There are
Mm-hmm.
elements of my life that have always hurt because I have never felt like I'm 100% myself. But having an answer as to why I do not feel 100% myself is an immense comfort, and it is an
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
immense pillar that I can cling to as foundational and as me. I get to feel like myself even though it's not always fun to be me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My spirituality is deeply a core part of my identity, and
Mm-hmm.
I experience that spirituality through the lens of the fact that I'm not human. And that spirituality gets me through the fact that there are a lot of things about my life that have sucked. I have chronic anxiety and severe depression, the worst insomnia that the sleep specialist had ever encountered, and hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and fibromyalgia and postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome. So I
And
got a
you're an
bunch of things
editor for
wrong.
Studio Prey.
Well, that too.
Mm-hmm.
But and one of them is a heart condition, so joy. But my spirituality makes all of that shit easier for me to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is I am a dragon trapped in a human suit.
Yes, indeed. And like the thing is
Mm-hmm.
let's get right down to Farthest Star for a minute. My morphics are directly inspired by the otherkin and anthropomorphic slash furry communities. I will
Yep.
be right up
Mm-hmm.
and straight up honest in saying that they are also those books are directly tied to some of my greatest hopes. I
Yep.
will be right up there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, there's a reason your perspective character in your first book was a hare.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
anybody that thinks that it was Mary Sue, though, really needs to read the damn book.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
you're right what you know,
mhm.
and all the dysphoria, and the negative reactions of people around the characters are pulled from experiences being transgender and being otherkin.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, course, most of the really awful people are, just that's what it's like to be trans.
But the thing
Uh,
is that that's one of the reasons why I write the way that I do, because it's not so much about the fact that Joyce is otherkin, or that Joyce identifies as an otter trapped in a human body, or that Snow identifies as a hare trapped in a human body. It's about their desire to live authentically, which you can do with or without shift tech.
mhm.
Joyce was always an otter, as she said, even before she could shift. John was always a hare, even before he could shift. It was about them
Mhm.
finding ways to live their lives as authentically as possible.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And of course, then you write a character that was directly inspired by me, and she's in the Nightmare Gods universe. So
Mhm.
being tormented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle is coming
And
out with all the great questions today. Let's go with your comment, Maya, and then I want to address that directly.
crap, what was I gonna say? Right. And like to get a little more real for a second, like living authentically here in the now, in this life, in this existence. That can take, any number of forms. It can be, gender transition, social transition, HRT, any number of things.
Tattoos.
Me, yeah, that too. For me, it's taken, one of my favorite colors is purple.
There we
My
go.
favorite color combination is a black and purple. You wonder why. Those were the color of my scales.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do what makes you happy and do what makes you feel like you, and never feel ashamed of that.
The core message of the Farthest Star universe is not that you need to become some kind of animal to achieve enlightenment. It's the idea that you need to become yourself to be free, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
means. John Harper is authentically himself. He's also 100% human.
I
Xavier
like John.
Douglas, the Martian marauder who supported his
Mm-hmm.
daughter as she became both his daughter and a deer, is 100% human, but he is also 100%
Mm-hmm.
authentically himself. Andropov, Dr. Andropov. He is 100% authentically himself, my little Vidra. You know,
Dr. Human.
yeah, Dr. Human, quite literally. But each one of
Mm-hmm.
those people are paragons of humans living authentically.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's cool.
that kind of dovetails right into what Michelle is asking here, is that has there ever been a point in discovering who you are, what you are, that you rejected it, and how did you work through that, if so? Um, I had my awakening at about 2021-ish. Um, I was still heavily involved in the Christian church and in a Christian ministry program for another 3 or 4 years. I wrestled with it. I had, especially after my awakening, this intense feeling of identity with logomorphs, hares, but I also didn't want to burn in hell. And I
Yeah.
was deeply, horribly afraid of burning in hell. So there would be times where I would embrace this identity because it felt like freedom, and it felt like me, and it felt right, and it felt just amazing just to acknowledge that part of myself. And then there comes the conditioned fear that I am rejecting Christ, and that I am a sinner, and that I am letting demonic forces into my life that are going to drag me kicking and screaming to hell, where I will burn alive and regenerate second by second for eternity. And I wrestled with those two extremes, and it is as extreme and as visceral and as scary as it sounds, and probably more so, for years. But the thing is the one thing that I've learned about the truth is that the truth is more stubborn than I am. It keeps popping up. You keep getting confronted with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you can run from. You can run from it for a long while, but eventually you're going to tucker out. And it's just something that cannot be denied. But once again, I have to go with the fact that you just have to be willing, as scary as it is, to be honest with yourself. You have to come to a point
Mm-hmm.
where you are either going to accept this or you are just going to continue to struggle and combat until you get too exhausted and you come back to the point where you have that choice again and you will continue to loop almost invariably until you finally are ready to make amends with that part of yourself. To put it in another way, I've been to deliverance camps to fix me from being trans. You know, where it was like the
Oh,
Jesus
poor
Mhm.
was
thing.
going to fix me, and we're talking like 8 and 10 hour praise and worship sessions where they keep making the room colder, and the rhythm and the music keeps getting more rhythmic and darker, and they just about program you. It's about the damnedest thing close to brainwashing that I've ever been through. Probably
Brainwashing. Yeah.
was,
It
you
was brain.
know.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like,
brainwashing.
I'm talking
Yes.
like actual. I have felt like actual trance-like states where somebody is
Yeah.
talking to me and I can do nothing but accept it, and I came out like manically hardwired, detached from my emotions, where I did not feel anything for years, but I still ended up trans. It
Yep.
did not fix
But
me.
yes. Sibling says I thought most people liked warm weather, and I certainly do. And of course, the primary imagery of hell uh, comes mostly from Dante's Inferno, which in turn he got from imagery of Tartaros, Greek mythology. So I'm from there, so yeah, I'm fine. Uh, I'm good with that. I'm gonna go to the place with all the fire and stuff. I've got a nice little cave, right on the banks of the River of Fire. The view is great. When you're fireproof, swimming in it is fun. So yeah, I'm good. And that right there is my spirituality. But yeah, to go back to the first question, uh, talking about it is how you get through all of this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And anybody who wants to talk about it is welcome to come find me, because that's kind of what I do. Part of what has helped me deal is helping other people deal with stuff.
Mhm.
In order to say the things to people that they need to hear, I have to know those things, and I'm kind of saying them to myself at the same time. So I am always happy to help people through whatever it is that they're going through, and anybody who's struggling and trying to find themselves, trying to accept themselves, is always welcome to come talk. And I did have those moments of rejection of myself when I was a kid. I have this vague memory of I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I always knew that I knew on some level that I was trans. I didn't have the means to articulate it that young, um, but I never felt like a boy. I never had any friends who had any of those interests, and I was into a lot of girly stuff. And I have this memory of my dad saying something transphobic about something that he saw on television, and that's a bad thing, and I'm gonna get in trouble. And I should not be like that person, and put it all in a box, and didn't bring it back out of the box until I was like 19.
You
Mhm.
and I had a very
Uh,
similar experience in that I had a family relative that said some transphobic things quite
yep,
often, and I
yep.
remember getting hit once for being too much like a girl.
Um,
And
yeah, that thing happened to me too. I had so my dad was weird about it. Had just was obsessed with the stupidest things. Like how I looked at my fingernails. I was looking at my hands wrong. Doing this and
Instead
looking
of
at
this.
my nails as opposed to doing this was not okay, and I got my hand grabbed and my wrist twisted because I was looking at my fingernails wrong.
And it's important to, I think at least, and here's a little philosophy from Snowy's Corner, but it's important to look at your life not as a destination, but as a journey.
Mm-hmm.
People are, it's like I had this entire journey where I came to the realization that I was a hair trapped in a human body. And people would think that that was the end of the journey, but no, there's a whole other journey on the side of it, of learning how to accept that, learning how to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate that in my life.
Mhm.
And as I worked through that, it led to a growing richness in my life. And to quote, I'm going to be a geek here, Q from the last episode of Star Trek, the trial never ends, the journey never ends, John Luke. We are constantly
Mhm.
evolving based off of what we know and what we've learned and what we've incorporated and what we've experienced. And I
Mhm.
think to look at anything as just as a pure destination, as I just need to accept this and move on, I think that's doing yourself a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
We are all in the process of becoming more and more authentically ourselves. And we will
Mhm.
always be in that process of becoming if we're lucky, because the day you stop becoming is the day that you start dying.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Everything that exists at all times is either in a state of growth or a state of entropy. If you're not growing, you're decaying.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is ever stagnant. And that was a big thing for me because for the longest time, and like I said this before, like I repressed a lot of these things. I repressed being trans, I repressed being, non-human. Um, and that wasn't I was somehow lucky enough to never have the physically traumatic experiences that you two had. That was all like self internal.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know. I didn't care enough to do anything. I was for anybody who knew me throughout my childhood through elementary and middle school, I just like for myself. I just went along with the flow, and I still
Mm-hmm.
do that to this day, but I actually have my opinions. I have a sense of self. I didn't have that sense of self.
Yeah.
So when I first realized these feelings of like, oh man, I wish I was a dragon in like elementary school, I just didn't think about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was the thought and then it was gone. And
Yeah.
like they kept on cropping up, and then I realized like, in late elementary school, early middle school, or not even just early middle school, uh just middle school entirely. Ugh. Um you go through that stage of like hating everything that you thought and like realizing, oh, that's cringy. Cringe culture is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um and that was the major repression time.
And
And then
go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
and then once I finally started to think for myself, and I really have again my first girlfriend to thank for that, um, that got better. I started to think for myself. I started to have opinions. I had a sense of self finally, and that was what led me to stop repressing things, become more authentic, and become myself. And it didn't take me too long because, again, I was always the sort of person to just go with the flow, so it still applied. Um, you know, but I became myself through
Mm-hmm.
that.
And the siblings discussing in the text chat bring up another thing that I found useful for me personally. pointing out that my little brother is now a flaming bisexual who wears nail polish all the time and still lives with my transphobic and homophobic father.
Mhm.
Every one of us who is just openly and authentically ourselves, even when that identity isn't socially acceptable, is paving the way for other people. I have
Exactly.
for most of my life, for most of the time that I was out, had this feeling of, I'm strong enough to handle the bullshit. It doesn't stay with me when people say things or do things are generally transphobic and bigoted, and I've dealt with the religious intolerance and transphobia and homophobia and also racism and all of the things. And I have this thought of, people find me intimidating, so it doesn't happen that often to me, not openly anyway, and I kind of wish that it would more, because like I can handle somebody picking a fight, and I can make sure it's the last time they do it. And I
Mhm.
wish they would, so that I could make sure that they don't do it to anybody else after me, because I'm going to make them regret it. Have a couple of times.
Well,
And yeah.
oh, yeah, it's just interesting because it's like, but it can definitely cost you things to live
Oh yeah.
authentically. I mean,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I had a whole
Mhm.
career. I was supposed to succeed a theologian, take up their research. I had good connections within the Methodist Church, to be a candidate minister.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I left college with no career prospects, a degree that was not marketable, in any profession that I was comfortable with pursuing, $60,000 in debt. And
Mm-hmm.
I was still
Mhm.
years fully away from accepting those things. And Kat had a lifetime of struggle, as she's been talking about, with her father and with
Mm-hmm.
other people to become who she was. Maya, had it in some ways easier, but she was never
Yeah.
really able to express. She learned to go with the flow. She learned to roll with things instead of being herself.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's in the
Mhm.
process of being herself more, and I could not be more proud of her. But
Yeah.
Mm.
I have to echo that, for 28 years, because I always figured I'd be dead by 28. I just had this just died in the will belief that I'd be gone by 28. And so I just basically lived for other people and just didn't worry too much about it and
Mhm.
tried to be what everybody else wanted me to be. And starting at 28, when I hit that date and did not magically check out or whatever, I'm like, oh shit, I don't have an expiration date. I'm going to be here for a while. This is my life.
Mhm.
I'm
Might
going
as
to,
well live it.
yeah, exactly. And now, 10 years later, 11 years later, I'm about to head out on the PCT because I found that connecting with nature is a way of connecting with that part of myself and being my authentic self. I
Mm-hmm.
write books, I
Mhm.
talk to other people, you know.
You have to live your life. But yeah, I got to see firsthand, my dad was kind of awful to me when I was a kid. And now both of my other siblings are also queer, and also completely open about it. And he's still difficult sometimes. Consistently misgendering and dead naming me. He's gotten better. He's gotten much better about that too. But he leaves them alone for the most part because he lost that battle with me and realized that he wasn't going to be able to change any of us. Uh,
Mhm.
so I got to see it. I got to see kind of a microcosm of the fact that as we are out there doing what we do and being us, we are normalizing the idea that it's okay to be whatever way we are
Mhm.
for
It,
all of society, and there's other people who are having less difficulty. I came out over 10 years ago, and now I'm seeing kids who have parents who are my age who saw people like me coming out 10 years ago and now have a 5-year-old who's coming out and they react positively and are supportive because 10 years ago they saw it and it became normalized. We're not this weird fringe group of people like we were in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Everybody knows what it means to be transgender, and everybody has seen somebody who's trans. Everybody's watched something on Netflix or something because we did it. And now there's a next generation of the kids of our generation aren't behaving the way that our parents did because we're doing it. And that's true of every aspect of identity that is non-standard, such as being otherkin.
It gets better, but it's only going to get better if you choose to live honestly and authentically, and that means accepting sometimes the consequences, accepting the fact that it's going to hurt, accepting the fact that there are going to be people that judge you and make fun of you and reject you. But honestly, and I'm going to get a little passionate here, but if someone's going to treat you badly for living as your authentic self, fuck them. All right.
Yep.
I cannot state that strongly enough or unequivocally enough. I know that is not like live stream friendly language, but I will say it again. Fuck them, because it's only until you start living authentically that it does that it starts getting better, not just for you but for the people around you. You are forging trail.
Exactly. And on the one hand, people who are going to reject you for being who you really are can go fuck a cactus. If you have had to spend your life, building this mask, being somebody that you're not, and somebody's going to reject you for taking the mask off, they loved the mask. They never actually loved you because they never knew you. And if they're not going to make an effort and get with the program, you really don't need them in your life. And on the other hand, everybody is capable of change. And the people who do genuinely love you, some of them may struggle. Some of them may take things poorly, but they will make an effort and they will make progress. And I'm actually really, really proud of my father, because 20, 30 years ago, he was kind of awful about everything, and he has gotten so much better about things. He caught me on a website that had the word occult in it once when I was in my early teens. And he unplugged the computer and didn't let me use it for like a week and a half before he forgot about it, and I got to go back to what I was doing. A couple of years after that, he started buying me occult books because he realized that this was something that was important to me. And he grew as a person. Because the people who love you will grow because you are growing, and they will change, and they will try to get with the picture and accept you for who you really are. And my dad has done that. He's getting better about sexuality. My little brother apparently had a conversation with him recently about that was actually good. So that's cool. He has gendered me correctly like twice. So he's making progress, whether he likes it or not. A few years ago, we all went to a family reunion, and my aunt and my uncle and my cousins, and I explained my situation to them, and they were all immediately on board. Nobody misgendered me once, and he spent the entire weekend like loudly and deliberately misgendering me in situations where he didn't need to, and making a fool of himself. And now he's trying not to do that. And as of a couple of weeks ago, he's going to go have some conversations with his brothers and sisters who have no idea that I'm trans, and he's going to tell them because he wants me to be able to socialize with his family and wants me to start coming to stuff with them again. And I did not expect that was ever going to happen, and he volunteered it.
We
I
have
had to.
another newbie in the stream, Alter Angel. It's wonderful to have you here. I just want to call that out while we have a quick lull in the conversation.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
now
It's nice to see you.
let's jump back to Maya because I cut her off again.
Yeah.
We're all so eager to talk this stream. It's pretty wild.
Apparently. Yeah. Hi, Alter Angel. Yeah, I had to all those lessons that Kat was talking about, I had to learn in high school when I first came out as originally came out as non-binary, or was it agent? I can't remember. It was so long ago now. Um, but I had to learn all those because I lost my entire friend group that I'd had since elementary school, and even before that in some cases. Um, and it took me a while. It took me a long time. I still didn't have a solid friend group by the end of high school, but I learned not everybody is going to accept you for being you. And as Snowy said, and as Kat said, screw them. They can screw a cactus. They can fuck a cactus. Who
There we
cares?
go.
I
You had to
certainly
work
don't
your way
anymore.
up to the fucking cactus, huh?
I mean,
Well, one
I don't
does. One doesn't start off fucking a cactus. They start with a yucca tree and they just kind of work their way up.
Oh God.
Oh.
Hey, I'm trying to at least keep it a little PG-13. We're already
No.
past that point, but
Oh my goodness, we are so fucked in that regard.
you can say fuck once, but
We really fucked that, didn't we?
What the fuck?
Okay, let's bring it back and let's keep it somewhat professional, people. All right.
Yeah.
It's like,
No.
but
Sorry, boss.
love you, sis.
and
yeah,
as we see, one's the good child and one's the bad child.
Yes. It's fine. I'm working on it. We'll both be bad soon. Also, I'm looking at myself on the camera and noticing this.
Cat is swole. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Your
Look,
meat
folks,
is whack.
This is what Ehlers-Danlos syndrome looks like. I can hyperextend every joint in my body.
So today I learned that Ehlers-Danlos looks like a flexible Greek.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Here I thought it was the olive oil.
I mean, you gotta lube up sometimes, but
whoa!
I'm sorry. That was
Apparently,
awful.
it's not particularly normal for people to be able to do this either.
Okay. Back on track. Getting back on track. Yeah, these are all things you gotta learn. You gotta make the conscious effort to realize that not everybody's gonna be, not everybody wants to change. They certainly have the capacity to, but they have to want to.
They're gonna make their choices, and other people's choices are no reflection on you. And sometimes that beginning that process is particularly difficult. It costs you things, no matter what that process looks like for you, no matter who it is that you need to be. But in the long run, I am firmly of the belief that it's always worth it.
My grandfather, when I told him, now I've always had an amazing relationship with my grandfather. He and I have just connected. He's like, I mean, it's cheesy to say it, but it's true. He's like one of my best friends, which is pretty amazing because like he was born in the 30s and is very much a West Texan, and I'm very much was not born in the 30s and or West Texan at the end of the day. And when I finally got the courage to tell him that I was trans and I was transitioning and all of that, he's like, I don't understand this because this was not something that was ever a part of my time or my generation. But at the end of the day, you are my firstborn grandkid, and this is obviously something that you need, that's important to you, and so I will do my best. I won't get it perfect because I'm an old man, and I'm set in my ways, but I love you and I will do my best. And
And
he's
that's what
done
love looks like.
absolutely, and he's done his best, even though I absolutely 100% confused the hell out of him, and he has said so. He's like, and we talk once a week, and it's one of the most positive and affirming things in my life.
Yeah.
Conversely, I have a sibling who has effectively disowned me, who thinks I am a moral degenerate, and we have not talked in a decade. And the thing is he has even less of an excuse than my grandfather would have in
Yep.
many ways, but he's choosing to be a bigot.
And you're going to the Mojave, so maybe you can mail him a cactus.
Yep, Arizona's right next door. I could go find him a nice saguaro.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I'm really proud of your grandfather. That's really cool. My grandmother was the same. So like the first person that I came out to was my ex, and then my mom. And my mom's response was, "Yeah, I know. I was just waiting for you to tell me." She was just waiting for me to be ready to admit it to myself. And then she immediately gave me a bunch of old clothes that didn't fit her anymore, and still does every time I visit. And even my dad, his response was, "You are my son, and I will always love you." And he said it like that. So he was being a dick, but there was still the "I love you."
Yeah.
And there was still there's every time I have come, I disappeared for like 6-7 years. And then when I finally started visiting again, like, he makes sure that he always makes my favorite foods and all that kind of stuff, because he's making an effort. And my mother told me not to tell my grandmother because she didn't think that she needed to know, but it was important to me. So I did. And she just wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to screw anything up for me. Like, are you going to be okay? And then she didn't care. Of course, she already at that point was showing signs of dementia, and I'm pretty sure she just completely forgot. But her response was positive.
Yeah.
And of course, my siblings are awesome. My siblings are amazing human beings whose immediate response was, "Okay, what does that mean?"
Yeah.
And I explained, and it was, "Okay, cool. What do you want us to call you?"
So, Kat, we've lost Maya.
Yes, we have.
Can you
Bye, Maya.
believe that we've gone almost 2 hours?
Yes, I can believe it. We've talked a lot.
Now, why don't we, since we've gone almost 2 hours, let's hand it back to the group for some final questions, and then we'll see what we can do about winding down here.
Yep. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes for the chat to catch up, and just kind of bullshit so we don't have dead air until they actually hear this part.
And it's been one of our best live streams ever, I think.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun.
This is pretty fantastic.
Oh, I see the squares are dancing. It's
welcome
Bones and
back.
Hot
Hey.
Sauce.
Sorry, the woes of spironolactone. I have to go to the bathroom again.
Well, thank you for broadcasting that to the world.
Thank you very much.
I am relieved that you are relieved.
Yeah, so for those who do not know, the price of anti-androgens is that spironolactone is a diuretic.
But yeah, no, I'm back. It appears the stream hasn't quite caught up with that yet, but oh well.
Yes, indeed. They will soon find out that you ran to pee here in a minute. Congratulations. You have broadcast to the world that you do indeed use the toilet.
And quite well.
I hope it was the toilet, at least. I mean...
trying to make Maya choke again.
No, it's my sister's bedroom. But
Yes, yes. Spyro makes us crave pickles and pickle juice. I will drink a glass of pickle juice, and it is the weirdest thing ever, but it's good.
I
Yeah,
crave
I
salt
actually,
and mainly like peanuts and things like that all the freaking time.
Of course, you know what's great
uh,
is that spironolactone sucks all the sodium out of your body,
mhm.
and so does POTS, the heart condition that I have, postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome. The symptoms correlate directly to low sodium and low electrolytes and dehydration. Uh, so I have a salt grinder with like big rocks of salt in it, and I will occasionally open this thing and just pour salt on my hand and eat rock salt
I
because I
mean,
am sodium deficient and it makes me dizzy and lightheaded and then I pass out.
I'm pretty sure you can make flavored salt crystals. So
Probably.
that's an option.
Sibling made pickled eggs. Cool.
Ooh,
So next time I
nice.
am home, I will have some pickled eggs.
I cannot
Yeah.
handle pickle juice. I've taken a shot of it, like actually taking it like a shot with Cat. Cat broke out this mead, this special mead that was
Yes.
made from with yucca, wasn't it?
I don't think so, but I
Ooh.
don't remember what it was. It was something fancy.
Yeah, it was agave. It was agave
It
mead.
was agave. That's what it was.
Mm.
And it was freaking tasty. Now I do not
It was.
normally drink, and the anxiety medicine on Boost Bar makes drinking really cheap and really fun for me. Um, and and I went through this stuff. Kat got to see me
Yeah.
sauced.
Yep.
Uh, and then she like set down the shot glass of pickle juice and was like, "Drink this all." And I'm like, "I don't like pickle juice." She's like, "Drink it anyway." And so I like picked it up and I just like I threw it down range, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" Luckily,
Yeah.
because of my experience in the church, I'm good at swallowing things I didn't want. So
But yeah, pickle juice, for the same reasons, is also a good hangover cure or hangover prevention.
Oh,
Because the reason that hangovers happen is because alcohol is also a diuretic that sucks all of the electrolytes out of your body, and the pickle juice helps restore those before everything is all messed up, so you don't get a hangover as bad. So
mm.
if you're going to
I'm
drink,
gonna have to remember that.
alternate your alcoholic beverages with water and drink pickle juice.
that moment when you say something and you mean it one way and then you realize that it could be taken in a whole other darker, more sinister way.
If it's any consolation, as soon as you said it, my mind went there, but I didn't say anything.
Yeah. Well, when I said it and then I saw your reaction, I went, "Oh shit!" And then it went, "Oh shit, we're live." There's no censoring that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not what you meant. But there may have been people in the audience who also got that. There may have been
Yeah.
people in the audience who didn't get it, and now they're starting to.
I just can't win, but I'm used to this.
Yeah,
We've said it many times, but it's really a shame that we can't edit you live.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Thank
yeah,
you so much,
you're a
MB.
hair. Hairs always lose eventually.
Mhm.
Everyone
It's just
loses
about
eventually. On the long enough timeline, the survival rate of everyone drops to 0.
except for me.
Sure.
I quote Chuck Palahniuk in Fight Club because I love that line. I find an immense amount of comfort in the idea that all things end. And that's not to be like gothic and, like terrible and emo. What I'm saying is that endings are transitions to new beginnings natively.
Mhm.
Death is a doorway. Death is just a step to another transition of existence. And so the idea that all things are temporary, the idea that all things are that end makes me appreciate what's good and makes me appreciate that the pain, that the badness, that the dysphoria, that the things that are tearing me apart at any given moment or any given day when I'm having a bad day aren't eternal either.
Mm-hmm.
Everything
Mhm.
does have its season, and I find
Mm-hmm.
such an immense comfort in that concept.
Mm-hmm. So do I. I'm a fatalist.
Yeah.
It's easy to be a fatalist when you've actually met the fates. But death is just, I'm gonna go home.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
just waiting to go home. That's where I'm from.
Yep.
Mhm.
I go
I
back to
mean,
my
for me,
lady and my life and my purpose, and that sounds not so bad, you know?
yeah.
Gandalf
I
and the
mean, for
Lord of the
me,
Rings talking about the far green country before that big battle,
Yep.
and he's like, that doesn't
mhm.
sound so bad. And he's like, it's not,
Yeah.
embrace change. And Maya,
Mm-hmm.
once
Yeah.
again, I talked over you and I feel so cold.
It seems to be the theme, but yeah, same for me. Like I wasn't not like Cat or Snow. Like, I wasn't born from a goddess, but I've certainly been adopted by one at this point. So yeah, I'ma just go home
Yeah. Well, Travis,
after this
I'm
is
glad
done.
we've made your day a little better.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very much my mentality.
Hmm.
I'm just going home. Uh, I'm a daemon of the underworld, and I'm perfectly happy to go back whenever the gods decide it's my time. Um, on the one hand, you can say that everything ends, and on the other hand, you can say that nothing ends. Conservation of matter and energy, nothing is ever destroyed, it only changes forms.
Well, Travis, I am so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that you are a part of my experience because while what Kat said was 100% true, the changing of forms is a very unique thing because that means whenever you encounter someone, you're encountering them in that moment, and the person that they are now will never be that person ever again. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
you meet
Hmm.
is in a state of quantum and spiritual uniqueness, if you will permit me to get a little esoteric here, and that's never going to repeat. And you can prove that through both science and spirituality. We are all on a journey. So the fact that Travis is in my life right now means that I have a special privilege of knowing Travis at this particular moment and at this particular time. And that goes the same for Kat and Maya and every one of you in there. And that makes me feel once again so privileged that I'm part of people's lives like
Yeah.
that.
And every 7 years, I think it is, every cell in your
Hmm.
body dies and is replaced. So you are literally, there's nothing about you that was part of you 7 years ago. Everything
Yeah.
is new.
Yeah.
And you know what? The reality is, eventually, everybody who's listening to this is gonna die, and your body is released back to the world, to the earth, and maybe you become a tree, and the part of you that is you uh, just gets to move on to the next thing, and whatever that looks like for you.
Hmm.
And I find nothing fearful or sorrowful in death. Like I miss people. I experience
Hmm.
grief, but the people that I have loved that have moved on, I still talk to them on a regular basis, and they talk to me because necromancy, it's a thing I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a change of form. It's like watch The Wicker Man. It was actually a really excellent representation of certain Celtic pagan beliefs. Uh, Rowan became a hare.
I
That's a
loved
thing.
that line for multiple reasons. It was just, it's like,
Uh,
she's happy now, and I'm like,
I'm sure Rowan is very happy as a hare.
yeah. And let me tell you, it's not a bad life. Very simple
Uh,
life.
Hmm.
You
oh,
know.
is the 7 years thing not true? Somebody says the 7 years thing isn't true.
Hmm. And Dahan brought up, yeah, the instance paradox. You and a clone will not be the same person and never will be.
That's relatable, Travis.
Yep.
Very relatable. Hmm.
If I may tell a family secret, Maya,
Let's keep that one a little secret for right
Okay,
now.
okay. No problem. I asked. I was trying to be careful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in next stream. No. But seriously, it's, life is beautiful and unique, and one of the things that makes life beautiful and unique is that it ends and becomes another form of life.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's a really excellent point, actually. Nega talking about the Doctor Who episode, where somebody says if babies could talk to each other in the womb, they would think that life ends after 9 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's
Yeah, I
this
forgot about that one.
there's this famous writing from the 60s where a guy realizes that like he meets God when he dies, and he realizes he's God's child and that he's every person that's ever lived. And he's like, wait, so I'm Hitler? And he's like, yes, and you're the 10 million people that he killed. And
Wow.
he's like, and so what?
Mhm.
So what is this? What is all of this existence I keep going through, and I keep having to live again and again? He's like, it's an egg.
Wow.
Yep, I remember watching a video on it at one point.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mhm.
But yeah, we have passed the 2-hour mark, and
Oh,
I
wow.
don't think anybody has any other questions, so I think we should go ahead and wrap it up.
Guys, it's been a very special live stream. I don't know when I'm going to be on this next one. I'm going to try to make it to one when it lines up, and I'll be coordinating and scheduling with the team. But I'm also going to be sending out vlogs from the trail. They will either be on the Trek or on the Studio Prey website, on the YouTubes. I'll be sending out my Instagram updates. I'll be sending out stuff on Facebook and Twitter, and there's also always my Patreon. Guys, I'm available. I might not be present for the next live stream, but I will be around.
Well, we'll miss you, and we will clear our schedules as best we can to coordinate with when works for you for the next live stream, and hopefully you make it.
I hope
and
so.
if not, we'll manage.
Yep, we'll talk. We'll talk about it. But yes, we'll see you out there. Alter
Onward
Angel.
to the farthest star.
Onward towards the farthest star. Alter Angel, it was wonderful to meet you too. We'll see
Nice
you
to meet
next
you.
time.
Nice to meet
And
ya.
we are.